We're joined now from our London newsroom by the former UKIP leader, Nigel Farage. Good morning, Nigel Farage. Thanks very much for joining us. How do you think Donald Trump's first year as President of the United States has gone so far?
Well, it's been unconventional, it's been controversial on an almost daily basis, but highly effective. And America is now going through a boom. Not just the tax cuts that you mentioned in your package, also deregulation on a very large scale. And now what you're seeing are big American companies, Apple this week, for example, reinvesting tens of billions into the US economy. And I was in Washington, D.C. the week before Christmas, and you kind of talk to taxi drivers and bartenders, and there's a feeling of real optimism in America. Ultimately, whether it's prime ministers here or presidents in America, it is on the economic circumstances of a country that people are judged, and he's doing very well.
You said you were talking to taxi drivers about their opinion. Have you managed to talk to Donald Trump in recent times? Because at one point you were touting yourself as perhaps a go-between between the British government and Donald Trump in an effort to show yourself perhaps as someone who could bridge the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, the one regret really a year on is that the president has been to France on Bastille Day, and he's been to Brussels, he's been to Italy, to Poland. He's done big events all over the world, and yet the one country that he himself feels the closest to, don't forget his mother was Scottish, the one country where he values our relationship in terms of security, in terms of defence, where he was very optimistic about putting together a trade deal, and I would say, frankly, we're now more or less at a standoff between Downing Street and Washington, and I think that's to be regretted.
Have you spoken to him recently?
Not for a little bit, no, but the last time I did, the one thing that struck me really very squarely was his absolute determination to carry out the things upon which he was elected. You know, when Trump puts a manifesto before the American people, he doesn't do it for short-term tactical advantage. He does it because he intends to carry it out. And that's one of the things that I really do admire about him.
What do you make of opinion polls? Because when you look at the opinion polls relating to Donald Trump, his average approval rating, so to speak, in the United States is 39%, the lowest recorded of any elected president in the first term. He's officially one of the most unpopular presidents in the modern era after 12 months in office. This is according to Gallup. These are those figures. How does that tally with what you're saying in terms of, well, he's delivered what he said in the manifesto and the economy's doing better?
Because these polls basically are asking you, do you like the president? You know, George Bush Sr. had an approval rating after the first Gulf War over 80%, and yet he lost the next election. And here's the point. You don't have to like your leaders. You have to respect your leaders and think they'll do a good job. And I would wager that with growth over 3% in America and set to rise this year, that come 2020, if he wants to run again for president, he'll win.
The book that's just been released on him, Fire and Fury. I wonder how I don't know if you've read the book. I've seen excerpts from the book, but one of the descriptions of President Trump from White House staff is childlike. I mean, this has done not much for his reputation in terms of the image he's portraying.
Yeah. Look, he is not a conventional political figure. He is a self-made real estate billionaire from New York, a city in which they kind of say things the way they see them. All through my life, I've met people in business, in politics, big, wealthy entrepreneurs, and every single one of them is idiosyncratic. And yes, sure, you know, the president gets upset with things, the president gets angry with things. He's not like anybody else that's ever been inside that White House. But you know what? It doesn't matter, because one of the reasons that he won is people don't want career politicians like Hillary Clinton. They want someone different, they want someone straight, and as I say, provided he keeps on doing the right job for the US economy, he will go down as a very successful president.
Well, you say he's different, but you know, you look at a campaign and you see what politicians promise, and that's what most people base their voting decisions upon. He promised a wall. This was one of his campaign promises. He hasn't delivered on that, has he?
You know, if you
he is like the other politicians in terms like that. He hasn't delivered.
If you compare what he's done in his first year to what the last 4 or 5 British governments have done, they promise things in their manifestos that they've even got no intention of carrying out. He has done some remarkable things. Tax reform, deregulation, these were all things that were promised in the manifesto. A massive crackdown on illegal immigration coming into America. And yes, he promised a wall. He's only 25% of the way through his term. I'm convinced there will be a wall.
OK, let's move from a wall to a bridge. Apparently Boris Johnson thinks that we need to have more of a connection with the continent, with the EU, especially since as Brexit is on the cards. What do you make of that? Boris Johnson saying we need more than just the Channel Tunnel.
Well, Boris Johnson likes the big grand projet, doesn't he? I mean, the previous thing he wanted was a big airport out in the Thames estuary. Now it's a bridge across the English Channel. All I can say is, given the size of the modern container vessels that come through the channel from China, it will have to be a very high bridge indeed, which means on many days of the year, when the wind's blowing, people won't be able to use it. Sounds like quite a big waste of money to me.
Nigel Farage, thank you very much for talking to us on BBC Breakfast.
Big Man Tyrone here. Make sure to subscribe to the wicked awesome Robin Hood UKIP YouTube website. He exposes the leftist crops on the British Brainwashing Corporation. Nice.